Hi, I am here with Michael, a SWAT officer who has just completed the mastermind course, Change Your Mind, Create New Results. Michael, I'm so glad that you're here to share about your experience in the course. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you. So tell me a little bit about where you were before you took this course and what was your motivation?
So I just noticed I was becoming very distracted, unable to detach from work and other problems and just live in the moment with my family. Um, Kind of becoming more and more closed off in my communication with other people, not communicating at the level that I could. And so I wanted to try something different. I came here by way of the boot campaign, which is a phenomenal program that helps veterans. And I just sort of by a natural result of doing heart math and practicing coherence kind of rolled right into this.
Yeah, and you did. You really rolled right into it. And so I know you had a lot of takeaways from this course. It's very different than a lot of other things that we've done. So if you could maybe explain some of the key takeaways that you got and how it has helped you in your communication and other things in your life.
The key takeaways for me, I mean, the earliest things were sort of catching myself in that negative feedback loop, what is called a refractory period, and being able to realize earlier on than I used to and interject into my own thoughts to change my behavior. Right. And so a lot of the tools like the stop it and cancel clear and using green light language, telling myself, I can't believe this, instead of saying, hey, I can do what I can to change this situation, but it's out of my control. Those things, as simple as they sound, were kind of like real turning point. And then understanding how the refractory period works, that was just a huge light bulb.
So before understanding how the refractory period worked, would you say that you would get triggered and then you might stay in, and what we mean by refractory is like you get the fight or flight response. And most of the time we either want to fight to protect ourselves or flight to disengage from people. And when you shorten that refractory period, you stay more connected to those that are around you and you don't stay in that fight or flight response very long. So before you learned about that, would you stay in the refractory period for hours, days, weeks, maybe months? Or tell us a little bit about what happened before you learned about this.
Without a doubt, but easily months for certain things. Right. And it wasn't consistent. It wasn't everything that bothered me. I stayed in that period for months, but absolutely, I could look back on times before this course where I'm at home with my family, playing with my kids, and I'm thinking about something that happened at work 6 months ago, just dwelling on it, and it's always negative, negative emotion, anger, frustration. And so, yeah, absolutely. Way longer than I should have been.
And that probably hindered you being completely present with your family and your kids, right? Because your mind's somewhere, you're there physically, but you're not there emotionally.
Yeah, I think an analogy was used to me when I got out of the military talking about PTSD. They said, picture a cup and the cup gets full and you just keep pouring water in. Well, the water is going to spill over the sides. And they said how that manifests, you know, in interpersonal relations is you could be looking at your kid and they're talking to you or your spouse, but you're thinking about something completely different. Like you're not even really there. And I started to experience that. And I just said, I got to do something because this is not the way I want to live my life.
So it sounds like you learn the tools to become very present with those that you're with, whether it be your kids, your wife, people at work. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I will say the meditations also helped. I was never one to meditate or be into the spiritual side, so to say, whatever you want to say. I mean, I am religious, but I just never got into the meditation, and maybe didn't give it a fair chance. And once I did, and using the guided one, that compared with learning about refractory period, that really was just like the huge turning point in the program. That's where I saw, okay, almost like an immediate result afterwards. You can map it on inner balance, measuring your heart rate and everything. And so when everything started to come together at the end of the course is when I really saw the change. I could play with my daughter, not think about anything related to work for an entire afternoon. You know, like when my wife would talk to me, I would actually hear what she's saying. That could be an unrelated
Wow,
problem.
that could be a game changer right there. Yeah, so it sounds like you have the internal tools to recognize I'm not present. I'm going to be able to shift and get into a present place with my family or with work. And it works, and you're able to stay there.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I think maybe I had, or maybe some people have the impression of like, oh, well, you can get to, you just need to figure out how to avoid ever getting angry. And it's like, no, that's not the trick. You know, the trick is immediately recognizing whatever's frustrating, angering you, whatever the case is, and then using the tools in this course to stop that chain of thought from becoming an emotion and then becoming a behavior and then becoming a part of your personality. So, um, that was very helpful.
Wow. Do you feel like this has been a temporary change or more of a permanent change that you'll be able to continue to use in years to come?
I think permanent. I mean, I can't predict the future, but I mean, I keep referencing the tools that we learned and that I practice, and those are things you can use daily if you need, right? And like with anything, practice, it becomes easier. Maybe instead of having to consciously think about some of these things, it will become more of a second nature response. So yeah, I think you absolutely can carry this on for the rest of your life.
Do you feel like you've changed your brain?
That I don't know. There's a lot of rocks kicking around up there, but uh, I've certainly changed my behavior. Which, you know, if I learn anything in this course, it requires changing your thoughts and brain first. So
That's really key because it starts with thinking, right? Because once we think a certain thought, and you gave an example earlier, you're shifting the thought. And then what happens after a thought is we have an action and a behavior. And so you're consciously choosing those. And as you consciously choose them, are you starting to see that it's taking hold where you're just becoming that person? It's just part of your state of being.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am more present. You know, that was one of my, when we had to write down our goals at the beginning, that was like probably number one. um, I wanted to be more present with my family, and I'm absolutely seeing that. You know, like I'm taking the time to communicate more clearly. You know, and be a little more proactive. And it's like the goals that I set out, I'm meeting. So
Wow. Really beautiful. Just the goals that you said before, like I can actually hear what my wife is saying. I'm with my child and I'm fully present with my child. So that shifts the family dynamics in such a big way, right? That's a huge shift. But what about at work? How are you applying this as a SWAT officer at work?
you know, that's a little more complicated because most of the stress in my life comes from that. You know, I'm not a person that has like a huge circle of acquaintances. I have a small group of close friends, and I spend as much time with my family as possible, and you know, we don't. There's no drama there, so it's almost all my stress is related to work. And I think the one key that really helps at work is the communication piece. Um, I mean, all the tools help because a lot of the stuff that angers and frustrates me comes from work, but definitely the communication piece. And I would say that it's been noticed over the past few months. So that's a net positive.
Definitely. It's when other people start noticing it in you and they're starting to go, did you get a haircut? Did you change something? But your being is showing up. Your whole energy is shifting because of the work that you're doing internally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a big part of it is changing our energy, because our energy is made up of how we think and feel. So would you say in a big way that your energy has shifted during this time that we've been together?
Oh, for sure. Certainly. Absolutely. And it's not, again, it's not just a flip of a switch and now you're on easy street, right? It's a constant process. And when I first came in, maybe I thought like picturing myself across the river was just like an end state instead of a continuous journey. But absolutely, I think I've changed the way that I even present myself to people, whether I meet them for the first time or not. Certainly, there's been a change. It's work, and I could keep improving on it. But yeah, it's absolutely changed.
Beautiful. So it sounds like this is something that you're going to continue to integrate throughout your life, and you're going to continue to grow and evolve.
For sure, I look forward to it. I mean, I hope as my kids get older that I can introduce them to some of this, um, and they could get started a lot earlier than me.
How nice would this be if we had this in kindergarten? Right?
Yeah,
Kindergarten and first grade, it would change the trajectory of our lives quite a bit, I think.
yeah, I would even take high school at this point. That'd be great.
Start with high school would be pretty good. So if you were to sum this up, if a friend was saying, well, what is this all about? How would you sum it up if a friend was asking you?
Well, I guess I would say it's worth taking a different approach. I mean, that's really how I ended up here. You know, I've tried other things, and usually it just devolved into me thinking I'm positive self-talking by telling myself, "Come on, like square yourself away." It's like that's not helpful in any way whatsoever. Um, but if I was to sum it all up, I would say it's a necessary journey for a lot of things. It could be recovery, self-improvement, making it through trauma, whatever, fill in the blank. I think it's a necessary journey if you want to change your behavior in significant and lasting ways. So if there's anybody that wants that for whatever reason, this will do it.
Really beautifully stated, because this really is the formula for change. And so many people try to change without success. And when you have a tried and true formula, you explained it beautifully, you get the results of being fully and completely present, communicating differently, showing up different, changing your energy. And Michael, it's been such a pleasure to work with you. Thank you so much for participating and being present and doing the work, because it certainly has paid off, and it sounds like it's going to pay off for decades to come.
I hope so. But yeah, I appreciate all the guidance through the course. This is not something I would normally do. I might even in the past years made jokes about things like this, but it works. And if it could turn a total non-believer into a believer like me, then if you're a half believer, you're already got a head start.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Yeah, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.